Hi, and welcome to the CAFMA Connect. I'm your host, Fire Chief Scott Freitag, and with me, once again, my co-patriot here, Assistant Chief John Feddema. John, good to see you again.
Yeah, I was here without you last week.
I know, and you know what? I really enjoyed watching your conversation with Dennis.
Yeah.
He just did a fantastic job talking about adversity. I thought it was a really good topic, and I watched it on the big screen. I was out with COVID, so I was at home, and I'm like, hey, Jen, let's watch John on the big screen. So we did.
Unfortunate, yes.
Yeah, well, I would have listened to it, but I'm like, no, I want to see him.
Yeah.
I gotta see their faces.
See the sweat and the pain.
4K high def.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
So we're going to follow up on that this week a little bit. Surprisingly, no, I'm not going to go into COVID or COVID mandates because thank you, Fifth Circuit Court. And we're not going to talk about the ambulance issues this week. Yes, they still exist. Yes, we're still working on them. But I just kind of wanted to follow up a little bit on what you and Dennis talked about during the last podcast, because it really got, for us, there were like 7 views.
Yeah.
As opposed to 3.
Yeah.
So that's pretty good. I think what Dennis had to share and what you shared struck a chord. Yeah. And I've also I had some time with COVID to sit around and think, because that was the only thing that didn't hurt. I was thinking.
Even though it's probably a fog, but
it was a fog.
Yeah.
And in full transparency, when I came into work on Monday, the first day back from COVID, I used my brain. And then I had to take several naps in the evening before I went to bed. Nice. So the rest of this week and during this podcast, I've just shut my brain off.
Very nice.
Yeah.
That should be fun.
That way I'm not tired.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that.
It's easier.
Yeah, it is easier. But, I thought about what Dennis had to say, and I really liked that the way he approached, he didn't get promoted to captain, although he felt he could have technically done the job at that point.
Sure.
But had he not gone through that adversity and been turned down, he wouldn't be the company officer or the person that he is today. And we see that. I mean, Dennis's life has changed a lot in the last several years, and part of that's credit to his new wife, who's awesome.
I think we titled her the Saint last week. Yes.
Yes, the Saint. But he really had to take that look internally at himself and say, as a person, is this where I want to be?
Yeah. Well, I think what he did highlight was I can do the job. And I could have done the job even then, but we didn't give him that opportunity. And he took that adversity and he grew from it. It wasn't like he used that adversity just to blame others and for a situation. He took it and he moved it forward, even though I think rightfully so, he was clear that, no, I think I still could have done the job, but I'm doing it better now. But partly that's on him because he took that and he grew from it. He moved forward and he used that adversity to strengthen himself. And that came back to a personal mindset of what he was going to do in the midst of it. And I think he was also very clear that didn't just happen overnight. No. That took time. That took, the 7 steps of grieving, all that to go through that same process to get him to a healthy mindset. Like, no, this is what I'm going to do with this adversity. This is how I'm going to change. This is how I'm going to approach this. And he did that. He made the adjustment. And obviously, clearly, he's been in the position and doing a great job.
Oh, absolutely. And I agree with him. I think technically he could have done the job on the technical side. Yep. But there's more to a leadership position than the technical part of the job. There's a leadership role that is different. And you can put people into positions that they can be technically successful at, but ultimately they're not going to be successful because they don't have, they're leading in a different direction than the organization's going. And that's not a healthy place to be. But I think part of that too, and just thinking along the lines of Dennis and him figuring out, why do I want to do this position?
Sure.
Why do I aspire to be a company officer? That's an important component of any decision we make. And in the review this week, I got a little philosophical, which is different because I've been more combative.
That's true.
The last several weeks. Now I'm philosophical. And I started by asking what is success?
Sure.
And then, what is happiness? And then just kind of break it down from there. And I had no intention of talking about finding your why, but the reality is when you can't talk about success or happiness and achievement of those things if you don't have a component of finding your why. Mm-hmm. Because I think people set goals for themselves and maybe it's not the right goal.
Yeah. And I think the other challenge to both those topics, success and happiness, is we're not very good at the measurements. We don't usually use a good measuring stick when we look at either one of those topics. And oftentimes we compare ourselves to others, or we see, something else out there where we have a goal that we want to achieve. And automatically, if you don't achieve that goal, you're a failure.
Right.
Because you've chosen success is simply based on either I get that goal, I achieve this, success, or I don't. And if I don't, then I failed in the process of it. And I don't think that's a good mindset to be in when you talk about either one of those, success or happiness.
I read in a book I'm reading, I read a parable, and I'll have to paraphrase it because I can't remember the whole thing. But the gist of it was a man is working at his computer late at night. His wife says, "Hey, I'm going to go to bed. Are you coming with me?" And his response is, "No, if I get this done and we see this project through, we will be set for life." And her response was, "I hear that all the time." And
Sure.
The reality is the man was a successful businessman. Mm-hmm. His business was thriving, but he had this other opportunity to grasp just that much more. And when the wife woke up the next morning, she found her husband dead at the computer.
Yeah.
And what do you have to show for that in the end? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people who set their mind or sights on achieving financial success, not security, but I need wealth, or at least I need something that makes it look like I've achieved wealth. And how many people have we seen that build themselves a house of cards and one thing goes wrong and it's all gone?
Well, even the Constitution, it says that we're endowed the right for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It doesn't say that we're life, liberty, and happiness.
Right.
It's the pursuit. And I think it was very clear when they put that in there that we are given the freedom to pursue what hopefully we can find some happiness in.
Right.
But you get the freedom to choose that. But you better find happiness in the pursuit. Because if it's simply based on the ultimate, the destination, once you get there, usually you're unsatisfied. And I think that comes from any, whether you're looking for personal gain,
right,
money, even objects, or even, look at position. Like if I get to be a company officer, I'm going to be happy. Then you find yourself in the position, and all of a sudden it's like, well, it's just another job.
Yeah.
I have to come to work, and I have to do this day in and day out. Now I'm supervising people.
Now they're making me do paperwork.
Yeah.
I hate paperwork.
Yeah, more paperwork. And I'm not that much happier. Or you go buy a car,
right.
As soon as you drive it off the lot, like, oh, this feels great. You drive it off the lot. It's worth much less than what you just paid for it. And soon it's going to be old. And you're going to be like, well, what I thought was going to bring me happiness doesn't. Even now you look at, use Facebook and everything else. You see somebody on a beach, and it's like, man, if I would be happy if I was on the beach with them.
Yeah.
Then you go to the beach, you get a sunburn, you get sand in places there shouldn't be sand. And you realize it's hot, it's salty, the waves are big, whatever it is. And it's like, well, this stinks.
Yeah, this is not what I wanted.
And now I'm no longer happy because I thought this was going to bring me happiness.
Well, and if you look at, I know people, and I'm sure you do too, who, hey, they live in a smaller, older home in an older neighborhood. They drive older cars. They get off work every day to rush home, pick up their kids, take them to Little League. They have financial security, and they're just happy. Mm-hmm. They enjoy life because life is family for them. Then I know people who live in gated communities and drive exotic cars and drop their kids off at boarding school, and they are the most miserable, unhappy people. So it's not saying that if you're wealthy, you're not happy. No, that's not the case. No. But what is it that drives you in your life?
Sure.
And for me, as I was writing the review this week, I thought about the idea that you may have your initial why for doing something, but over a period of years, your why expands.
Yeah.
As you get a broader vision of what the future is or what the current situation is, you go, oh, you know what? This also works for that, for achievement. There are people who, I used myself as an example and talked some about higher education, right? We all know a lot of educated idiots out there. There are people that just want that piece of paper because they feel like it gives them some authority or power or ability to get to a level, but really all they did was get the piece of paper. They checked a box. They coasted their way through, cheated their way through, whatever it was to get the degree. I personally started my higher education journey because when I first got hired as a firefighter paramedic, I thought, man, this is it. I have made it. Yeah. This is all I need to do in life. Yep. I was younger. I didn't have a lot of vision. I didn't understand.
That's all right. You can still be happy.
Yeah, I was perfectly content.
Yeah.
And then I started to realize, hey, you know what? I'm one slip, trip, or fall away from not being able to do this job. And if I can't do this job, I can't support my family. I should have a backup. And so I started going to school. At the same time, I was observing other people that I worked with, right? There were people in leadership positions that I wanted to emulate. I want to do some of the things that they do because they're very successful. Yeah. And they do a good job mentoring others. And then there were people that I worked with that aspired to be in leadership positions or were in leadership positions, and they were horrible.
Yeah.
Not only did I not want to work with them, I definitely did not want to work for them. And so I looked at this and said, well, I can do one of two things. I can stay in my current position and just allow the agency to head in whatever direction with whomever, or I can put myself in a position to promote and be the leader that I would want to work for.
Sure.
But that takes me getting this education. It also means that I have to learn something while I'm in class that I can take back and apply.
Yeah.
And so my why over a period of years expanded. Why was I seeking this education? And then not only the higher education, but the technical side of the job as well. Sure. There's a balance for what we do. But it was, I want to achieve this. And for me, John, personally, I feel that I've succeeded in life because I'm in a position that allows me to serve others, which is what I've always wanted to do. I'm happy when I get up in the morning and I have the privilege of putting this uniform on and representing this organization. That makes me happy.
Sure.
So I feel that I have a level of success. I've achieved a goal, which is to be in a position to serve others at a level where I can make a difference.
Yeah, and I think the part of it is you obviously where you're at right now. Like I say, you're happy. You're happy getting up and you're happy doing the work, and I think that's an important part of it. It's not just an achievement, because if we base success or our happiness on an achievement, once you get there, you're going to be disappointed in time, even if it's not initially in time. And I think it's understanding that both of those are not a destination. Right. It's part of the journey to get there. And even the journey now, going in the position, you better find enjoyment. Otherwise, life's going to be miserable.
Yeah.
And you're going to think if everything is based on that next achievement, you're never going to be satisfied. Versus finding enjoyment in the moment, finding enjoyment in today. You know, if you're given an apple today, enjoy the apple. Don't be worried about the apple you get tomorrow or the next day or the next day or the next day. Enjoy the one you got right in front of you. No different than the guy at the computer who dropped dead that night. You better find some enjoyment in the moment, otherwise your life's going to be miserable.
Yeah, it's not always about the next best thing. Now, I'd be hypocritical saying don't strive for more.
Correct.
Because I feel like I have to set the next goal.
Yeah.
What am I going to work towards next? Because if I just say, I've arrived, here I am, I've achieved what I wanted to achieve, well, then I'm not doing anyone in this organization or the community any good, because I'm not learning anything new that I can apply to the position. And I was thinking about you as I wrote that as well, because where you are...
Are you saying I'm not learning anything new?
No, not at all.
Okay.
What I was looking at was where you are today
Sure.
right? The path there was not necessarily the path that you had planned.
Sure.
Or a path at all that you had looked at.
Yeah.
But, and we did coerce you, strong arm you into taking the training chief position. But look at what you did with that.
Sure. No, and I think, like you say, it was not necessarily something that was on my mind. I mean,
Right.
I tell everybody, that we talk to, especially off probation, like what is your long-term goals? And so everybody kind of, we'll talk about it a little bit. And I always remind them, like, my long-term goal is to be a company officer, by the time I retired. That was the goal.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I've screwed that up along the way.
Absolutely,
But,
you have.
that's not the way it all turned out. And so when you approached, I had not really put a whole lot into training. I'd been involved in training. I'd done a lot of stuff there. But it wasn't necessarily something that was on my mind, like, well, that's what I'm going to do in my next goal.
Right.
But obviously using all those terms you use, course, strong arm, to get there, like, all right, no, I want to do it, try to make this organization successful, but I also had to find some happiness in the position. And obviously Chief Polachek provided that opportunity gave me a lot of freedom. In that freedom, I was able to kind of build and create stuff, which I found enjoyment in. If it would have been limited opportunities, I would have hated the job.
Right.
But he gave me a lot of opportunity to do like whatever I wanted, to be successful in the position and to try to make the training successful. And that's where I found enjoyment in it.
And I think that's one of the things that we try to do culturally as an organization is, hey, bring you into a position and then give you the freedom to make it what it should be.
Sure.
For you and for the organization. And even Jonah, I mean, he's sitting here doing the production of this for us every week, which is which is just another thing added. But one of the things we told him when we offered him the job is, hey, look, we need you to build this division.
Yeah.
Tell us what you need, and we will provide you the support.
Yep.
And we, even today, I was interviewing warehouse techs. Mm-hmm. And, people may look at the warehouse tech and think, okay, you're the warehouse tech. Where does this go? But what I was trying to get across to the applicants, and Chief Rose, Cody was the same way. Hey, look, this isn't a warehouse tech position. It's not just warehouse. There is tremendous opportunity to be had with where they're trying to go with the warehouse, and opportunities to work with training and with fleet and with tech. So it's not, hey, come in and we're going to put you in this box and here's where you're at. It's no, come in and here's where you're starting, but here's where you can be. What do you want to achieve? Yeah. And I think that's where, people in our organization need to take stock and look at themselves and say, one, am I happy coming into work?
Sure.
Two, do I have the freedom to do what I want in my position? If I don't feel I do, who do I need to talk to?
Sure.
To make that happen. You changed the course of where training went. Sure. For years it had been, hey, this person's pretty close to retirement. Let's put them out in training. And and that's not what we were looking for in a training chief. It was, hey, we want someone that's going to build our brand and develop our people.
Sure.
And we really wanted to recognize the importance of that training position, in that every new firefighter we hire starts there and then spends their entire career through training. Yeah. We've got to have the best of the best in those positions and give them the freedom to create.
Yeah. Like you say, that added to the enjoyment of just being in the position. And again, wasn't necessarily something I sought after and was intended to go that direction, but ultimately that was the door that opened to me.
Right.
And so I stepped through and found enjoyment in the position. But again, it was a mindset. And it was an orientation of like, no, I'm going to make this what I want it to be so that I can enjoy coming into work each day. And I think that's what, in both success and happiness, it's a mindset more than it is a destination, more than it is an achievement, because there's a day in and day out grind. And if you're just simply basing it on that achievement, it's going to be a false summit. You're going to get there and realize like, well, no, I want the next one. I want the next one. And you'll never be satisfied.
Yeah. And even in that, there's times in your life where you make a change. You've been with Central Yavapai and then Central Arizona for your career.
Yep.
I've worked for now, 4 different agencies, if you consider Chino and Central separately, and then CAFMA. But the 2 I worked for initially, I worked my way up to a company officer in a city department. I was happy with what I was doing. I was happy with what I was learning. But I felt I had more to offer. Mm-hmm. A neighboring agency was having some issues, and I felt I had the skill set to offer them that could help them change direction. Sure. And so I took that opportunity to go do that. And for over 8 years, we did a lot of really cool things there working together. Mm-hmm. It wasn't that I went in and saved anything, or the new chief came in and saved anything. It was, hey, we came in and we got people to the table and said, hey, how do we right the ship? Yeah. And it was great. But then over time, things started going in a direction that I wasn't comfortable with. And I had to make a decision. We've talked about that before. And that decision was to move somewhere where my goals, what I wanted to achieve, fit better with the environment. Yeah. And I found my way here, and I have absolutely loved it. The challenges and the opportunities provided over the last 8.5 years are, if I look back at where things were when I started in Chino and where we are today, I forget some of the stuff that we went through.
Oh yeah, not necessarily a bad thing.
No, and some of it, I'm like, oh yeah, we went through that, but today I can just smile about it and say, yeah, that time sucked, but whatever, here we are. We're stronger on the other side. Yeah. And I think that's part of it too, is if you want to be happy, don't dwell on the challenges. Seek the challenge, hit it head on, deal with it, be proud of what you've accomplished, and move on.
Keep going, yeah. And that's, I think, like I say, the encouragement is keep moving forward.
Right.
Keep taking one step to continue the process to moving forward. Yeah.
Life is not without adversity. No. As you and Dennis talked about. Yeah. It exists. Yep. Happy people have to deal with adversity, but it's how they choose to respond. Yeah.
You can only control your own attitude and your own effort in any given situation, no matter how dire, how desperate. You still have that choice, and you still can choose your approach in the most difficult situations. And I think that's what was, kind of interesting talking with Dennis. And he and I talked an hour after the podcast, last week, and just kind of continued the conversation, because it was fun, and a different kind of fun. We just enjoying the conversation, and just talking about some of the challenges and adversity and the opportunity to share it. Yeah. And talk about it, which is good. I think that's the benefit of the relationships, and a key to kind of the success of navigating those adversities.
Absolutely. And, I was talking to Jen, my wife, last night about the recruit graduation this week. Yeah. And for whatever reason, it struck me this time around differently than it has at some other recruit graduations. I had a chance to visit with the folks yesterday a little bit, just kind of candid, I guess, so to speak, just have a conversation. But I told Jen, I said, I'm in my 28th year in emergency services, and I have 9 more to go. These folks are just coming out of the academy, and I remember that excitement of coming out of the academy and being like, man, this is awesome. Yep. Look what I get to do every day. And then I blinked, and it's 28 years later. Yeah.
That's what life is described as vaporous, here today, gone tomorrow. And that's just no different than, like I say, happiness, success. The way we started this whole conversation is just when you think you're going to grasp a hold of something, it slips through your fingers and moves on. So you better find, again, happiness in what you're doing day to day, because before you know it, you're going to find yourself at the end and man, where did time go?
And like I said, I'm 9 years away from retirement, unless I get fired sooner.
It's always on the table.
Yeah, it's always on. I'm only one bad election away. But I'm already thinking, man, what does the day after my last day look like when I'm getting up and I'm not putting the uniform on? Now, I think, like with most retirees, you retire and then you have a trip and you're
That's
good,
good,
and
that's good,
it's
yeah.
like vacation.
Yeah.
And then you come back, and eventually you get up in the morning, you're like, well, what's my purpose?
Yeah.
What's my why now? I don't have to get up, put a uniform on. I used to be somebody that people would come to and ask questions of, and now
We don't want to hear from you.
we don't want to hear from
And I think that's the danger. Yeah. I mean, obviously you want to find that why, but you got to be careful with it as well, because if you put your identity in the fire service or any job
Right.
to that matter, the scariest day can be the day after you retire, because you lose that sense of purpose, you lose that why. So you better be careful, defining your entire existence on this is who I am, defined by this. And Dennis said it well last week when whether we're doing it in the podcast or afterwards, but how much of your life is lost when you retire.
Yeah.
And if it's too much, you probably need to make the adjustment now to look more in your personal life, in a hobby, in your family, all that stuff, your faith, and make the adjustment, because you don't want to lose you shouldn't be losing, half or 3/4 of your life when you retire, and your identity when you retire. So it's about, like I say, find that why, but don't just define it on one singular purpose of being here at this job.
Exactly. And, the interesting thing with CAFMA is that we have so many different disciplines within the organization. So it's not just coming in as a firefighter. And the cool thing is, if you work for CAFMA, you are part of the fire service.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't matter your position here.
Yep.
You're part of the fire service. Yep. If your division isn't working right, then the organization's not working right. And so I think we have a lot of people here that feel that commitment and how special it can be to be in this profession. And when I say this profession, I'm not talking about firefighting. I'm talking about the fire service.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
To be able to do this. And I know you guys talked about it last week, and I say it a lot. There's not a lot of professions that have it tattooed on their bodies.
Yes. Yeah.
And, last time I checked, I don't know, Jonah may have gotten the latest Microsoft version tattooed on his arm. I don't know how that works. But, we're in a profession where we wear it everywhere. And it is something to be very proud of. And there's a lot that you can achieve. When you talk to some folks, they're like, look, I don't really want to move beyond firefighter. Great.
Yeah.
Be the best damn firefighter you can be.
Correct.
And teach others.
Yep.
And the longer you're in that firefighter position, the more you're going to know about company officer and engineer, which means you're a resource there.
Yep.
Some say, I don't want to go beyond engineer or captain. Same thing.
Yeah.
Awesome. Be the best you can be at it.
Yep.
And have fun. Make work fun.
Yeah, and I think that's where I've even heard elite defined as maximizing our own ability. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I certainly can have goals and dreams, but if they don't align with my ability, I'm never going to achieve them. And that's where if I base success or failure on reaching, that dream that's never going to come to fruition, if I don't get there, I'm going to be a failure in my mind. Versus looking at my own ability, where I find my own enjoyment, and say, no, this is where I want to be the best captain I can be.
Right.
And by being the best firefighter, engineer, captain, operations chief, I'm going to be elite based on maximizing my potential and my ability at that point.
No, and it for me in the fire chief position, it's not like there's a promotion to another level.
Sure.
But that doesn't mean that you stop trying to achieve, because there's more to learn.
Yep.
That's the thing with any career field is you never stop learning, because the world, life is not stagnant.
Yeah.
So if you stop, you're not stagnant, you're falling behind because the world is passing you by. So you should always try to set stretch goals for yourself to be better. As long as you're getting up in the morning and putting on a uniform or coming into work here, your mindset should be, there's more for me to learn. How can I do better? How can I be of service to others?
Yeah. Be better today than I was yesterday, better tomorrow than I am today.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And now this week I'm a little off because COVID knocked me out a little bit.
Perfect.
I'm sleepy. But it doesn't mean that I'm not still trying to achieve something, right? And yes, I spend a lot of time on the ambulance stuff, but there's other things that I work on that I look at.
There's a lot of good things going on in the organization as well.
Yeah. Absolutely. There's a lot of fantastic things, I think. I think the person we hired today in the warehouse is going to be a great addition to the organization. Yeah. Jerry just started in fleet as our new fleet mechanic, and he seems to be doing a great job and is happy here, so that's good. Yep. And we have 7 recruits graduating Thursday night, yep. Which is, well, this airs on Friday, so night before.
Yeah, yesterday,
that works. Which is going to help because I know that in operations right now, there's been a lot of overtime, mandatory overtime. Sure. It's a combination of sick and injury and
COVID. It'll help. Like anything else, there's not one perfect solution. It'll help, and hopefully it'll just alleviate a little bit of the burden that's going on right now, and we can get some other folks back from injuries and COVID and all the other stuff.
Well, and you and I talked about it this week that we've run a pretty lean ship over the years, and it's time for us to bolster the ranks, so to speak, and potentially look next year to Safer Grant to bring some additional operations personnel on, because you get to that breaking point when you look at the overtime and the mandatory overtime versus we need to hire, and it just seems like we're at that point that no, we're not putting up a new fire station, but we need more resources personnel-wise to provide services internally and externally. Yeah,
like you say, we need to continue to evaluate that to try to find a healthy balance in the midst of it. Yep.
So next week on the podcast, I know you're out of town. Mm-hmm. So the idea for Thanksgiving week that I have, and Jonah and I have talked about it, is, and for those of you out there who run when you see me, it's probably a good idea. So I'm looking to bring 5 or 6 people in separately for just a couple minutes each and talk about what we're thankful for.
Very nice.
It's Thanksgiving week next week, and the last 2 years have been pretty crappy.
Yes, they have.
And it's been stressful for people, but I think there's a lot to be thankful for, and I think there's a lot of folks that work here that are thankful for a lot of things, and I'd like to hear what they have to say.
Yeah, no, that'd be kind of cool. Different perspective. Yeah.
And for anybody watching this on YouTube, you may see a line behind the table that looks a little odd. So we are going with a little bit of background change. Mm-hmm. That's kind of a barnwood burned theme. Not on fire, but it looks good. So hopefully that'll be done soon. We'd like to thank Eric and Andrew for working on that for us. But with that, John, I appreciate you coming in as always, because I know this isn't your favorite thing, but
I love this. This is amazing.
It's funny that it's not your favorite thing, but I get a lot of compliments from people with you on here, especially when it's you and somebody else.
Right. All 5 that watch it, they are very nice people.
The funny thing is if we're together, nobody watches.
Correct.
But if it's one or the other of us and somebody else,
there you go.
We get more views. So I don't know what that says.
We'll just leave that alone.
You know what? I don't really care what it says. It's fun.
Perfect.
We have a good time. So thank you for being here. Jonah, thank you again, sir. I appreciate your time. I know this is a lot added to your plate, and we will work on that, sir, I promise. So think about Thanksgiving next week, and what are you thankful for?